Us humans, as a species, love to rank things. Best movies of all time, best universities in the United States, best albums of 2025, Gossip Girl characters ranked from pure of heart to truly horrible, ranking every Kanye West song, and so on. Baseball, of course, is no exception to our desire to write things in a list with the things that we like best at the top of the list. And since I'm merely human, with a particular fascination with baseball and baseball history, the idea of ranking the greatest baseball players of all time has sucked me in like a black hole. I am far from the first person to try to rank the greatest baseball players of all time, and I'm certain that I won't be the last. But hopefully, when someone inevitably ranks the best baseball player rankings, the ranker will rank me as the best at ranking baseball players. Yep, that's the intro I'm going with. The goal is simple: rank the 250 greatest players to ever play Major League Baseball. But within that goal, there are two key terms that need to be defined. First, we need to define Major League Baseball. I decided to go with Baseball Reference's list of major leagues, which comprises 14 leagues, including 7 Negro leagues. Also included are the National Association, which is not recognized as a major league by MLB, and the Union Association, which is recognized as a major league by MLB, but is not recognized as such by me. Next, we need to define greatness. While interpretation can certainly vary, there's a clear difference to me between best and greatest. When I refer to greatness, I'm referring to the degree to which one's performance has transcended the performance of his or her peers. Best, on the other hand, would describe the person with the most skill or ability, independent of the level of his or her peers. The best baseball player of all time is always going to be the best player of the past 20 years, as the overall skill and ability of all players has consistently increased over time, and will almost certainly continue to do so. To give a simple example, Mike Trout is a better baseball player than Babe Ruth was, but Babe Ruth was a greater baseball player than Mike Trout is. When I first started building my list, I primarily used my existing impressions of each player to make judgments, supplemented by a quick look at their baseball reference pages. Since I had already researched these players extensively for my Hall of Fame project, this worked well enough at the start. An in-depth analysis isn't required to determine that guys like Babe Ruth, Barry Bonds, Cy Young, Walter Johnson, and Willie Mays should be towards the top of the list. But once I got past the top 30 or so, the distinctions between players became less obvious, and after the top 50, I realized just how difficult of a task it is to rank players of different positions with different skill sets and career lengths that played in different leagues throughout over 150 years of baseball history. There were players I could justify ranking as high as 80th or as low as 180th. I needed a better system to guide me, so I created one. Introducing Toes. Okay, maybe the name needs some work. You may be familiar with Jaws, the Jaffe War score system. Toes is the Tommy War score system. I'll show you the formula for Toes in a second, but let me explain the logic first. If I want to rank the greatest baseball players of all time, across different eras, leagues, and positions, I need a way to account for all of the changing factors, as well as all the different ways that a player can help his team win. WAR acts as a great baseline because it already does this. I've chosen to use Baseball Reference WAR instead of Fangraphs WAR because I prefer it for pitchers. I've already done a deep dive into the differences between R-WAR and F-WAR for pitchers in this video, so if you're interested, go give it a watch. So if WAR already makes the necessary adjustments, why not just look up the top 250 players by WAR and copy and paste? Great question, me. There's two answers. Firstly, WAR isn't perfect. Some common criticisms of R-WAR are that the positional adjustment is too drastic, causing middle infielders to be overrated and first basemen to be underrated. Another criticism is that defense is valued too highly, and some people will also argue that the adjustment for team defense in pitching WAR is implemented poorly. The second answer is that WAR is a counting stat. The longer a player plays, the more WAR he will accumulate. It is true that WAR can be negative, but a player has to be truly awful for that to happen. Even if a player is below average, he will likely continue to accumulate WAR for as long as he continues to play. So let me ask you, which player is greater? A player that was worth 70 wins above replacement across 3,000 games played? Or a player that was worth 65 wins above replacement across 2,000 games played? Player A has higher counting stats, but player B was more dominant. In an additional 1,000 games played, player A was worth only 5 additional wins. I would say that player B was the greater player. I've identified 3 characteristics that I believe represent the different components of greatness: dominance, volume, and consistency. Dominance refers to how good a player was relative to his peers when the player was at his absolute best. Volume refers to how much total baseball a player was able to play, and how much value that player provided throughout his entire career. Consistency refers to whether or not the player was able to maintain a high level of performance throughout the duration of his career. TOES is made up of 4 constituent statistics: WAR, WAR 7, wins above average, and WAR per 162. Each of these stats helps to represent the 3 components of greatness. WAR represents volume and total career value, WAR 7 shows how dominant a player was during his 7-year peak, and both wins above average and WAR per 162 represent consistency, as subpar seasons impact both of these stats negatively. WAA and WAR per 162 also show dominance as well, albeit less directly than WAR 7. Using a combination of these 4 stats provides a more complete picture of a player's greatness than just using WAR alone. Now, how do we combine them? It can't be as simple as adding them or averaging them, since the scale is quite different for each of these numbers. Instead, TOES divides a player's WAR, WAR 7, WAA, and WAR per 162 by a baseline number in order to get each stat on the same scale, the scale being the ratio of the player's number to the baseline number. To determine the baseline, I use the 20th percentile of players in my Hall of Excellence. Check out this video for more information about the Hall of Excellence. I'll put links to this video and the R-WAR vs. F-WAR video that I mentioned earlier in the description. The 20th percentile for WAR in my Hall of Excellence is 55.6, for WAR 7 it's 37.9, for wins above average it's 27.0, and for WAR per 162 it's 4.2. Now that we've divided the player's stats by these baseline numbers, we're able to combine them. Rather than simply adding them, I decided to add them and then multiply by 100 over 4 in order to get a number that is easier to understand. By doing this, a TOES of 100 becomes indicative of a fringe Hall of Fame level player, and the strengths of a player's TOES score can be understood based on its proximity to 100. This primitive version of TOES was already really good at accomplishing what I wanted it to, but because it contained both wins above average and WAR per 162, it did punish players with long careers pretty hard, especially if they weren't that great later on in their careers. For example, Pete Rose had a lower TOES than Sal Bando and Ken Boyer, which didn't seem right. So I made some small adjustments. After testing a few different options, this is the final formula that I felt gave the most fair mix of total career value, consistency, and dominance. I've color-coded it so that you can better understand what exactly is going on. The stats that we are inputting are colored in blue, the 20th percentile Hall of Excellence baselines that we are comparing the stats to are colored in green, and the weighting for each stat is colored in red. Want to see the TOES score for over 660 players? Then join my Patreon or YouTube membership. In addition to exclusive videos, Patreon and YouTube members also get access to my Hall of Fame spreadsheet, which I've now updated to include TOES. There are separate sheets for each position and decade, making it easy to compare players from specific positions or eras. I've also added 19 Negro League players to the spreadsheet. Membership costs $5 per month on either platform. There's a link to my Patreon in the description, or you can click the join button below to become a member on YouTube. TOES has helped us solve one of the problems with WAR. But since all 4 components of TOES are WAR-based, the criticisms about WAR itself and the way that it's calculated are still valid. Indeed, I noticed that a lot of shortstops and second basemen have a higher TOES than I expected, likely due to the strong impact of defense and the positional adjustment in our WAR. The list that I'm about to unveil is not simply the top 250 players by TOES. The purpose of TOES was to create a system to help guide me, not to create a system that would rank the players for me. I continued to evaluate players one at a time, meticulously comparing them to others on the list, and using TOES to hold me accountable, and let me know to look closer, and make sure that I am correct in my assessment whenever a discrepancy arises. I do also want to mention that players' WAR stats occasionally experience slight changes on Baseball Reference. This happened while I was in the process of editing this video. Most of the changes were insignificant. However, it looks like new data was added for some Negro League seasons, causing some Negro League players' stats to change substantially. As a result, the numbers you see in this video may be slightly different than what you'd see on Baseball Reference for some players, since most of this video was completed before the change. Alright, let's get into it then. I'm not going to provide commentary about every player on the list, since 1 minute of commentary per player would result in a 4-hour video, but I will be sure to give a little bit of reasoning for any player whose placement I think might be controversial or unexpected to some. I'm going to start at the top and work my way down, since the top of the list is more straightforward, and the bottom of the list is where things get more uncertain, and therefore more suspenseful. Number 1 is Babe Ruth, simply the greatest player of all time, no need to overthink it. Number 2 is Barry Bonds. Number 3 is Walter Johnson, the greatest pitcher of all time. Number 4 is Willie Mays. Number 5 is Rogers Hornsby, the greatest infielder of all time. He often gets overlooked because his career overlapped with Ruth, but he was incredible. Number 6 is Cy Young. Number 7 is Ty Cobb. Number 8 is Ted Williams. Toes has him lower, but he gets a small boost from me due to his 191 OPS plus, and him losing at least 25 WAR to, well, WAR. Number 9 is Henry Aaron. Number 10 is Roger Clemens. Number 11 is Honus Wagner, the greatest shortstop of all time. Number 12 is Tris Speaker. Number 13 is Lou Gehrig, the greatest first baseman of all time. Number 14 is Stan Musial. Number 15 is Josh Gibson. Negro League players in general are extremely difficult to rank due to the much smaller number of official league games played, and the unknown strength of the Negro Leagues relative to the American League and the National League. It is likely that the top players of the Negro Leagues were just as good as the top players of the AL and NL, but it's almost certain that the bottom 50% of Negro League players were not nearly as good as the bottom 50% of American League and National League players. That said, Gibson's career OPS plus is 214, and his career RWAR per 162 is 10.3. His OPS plus is the highest in Major League Baseball history, and his WAR per 162 is second only to Ruth. I think 15th is a fair placement. Number 16 is Mickey Mantle. Number 17 is Lefty Grove. Grove didn't pitch as many total innings as some of the pitchers that I ranked below him, but he was incredibly dominant, leading the AL in ERA plus 9 times. Number 18 is Eddie Collins. Number 19 is Alex Rodriguez. Number 20 is Grover Alexander. Number 21 is Bullet Rogan, who holds the record for most RWAR in the Negro Leagues. He's also the only player in MLB history with a career OPS plus and ERA plus both above 150, at the time of writing this at least. Ohtani is close. Number 22 is Kid Nichols. Number 23 is Nat Lajoie. Number 24 is Christy Mathewson. Number 25 is Mike Schmidt, the greatest third baseman of all time, unless you count A-Rod as a third baseman. Number 26 is Mel Ott. Number 27 is Tom Seaver. Number 28 is Rickey Henderson. Number 29 is Frank Robinson. Number 30 is Randy Johnson. Number 31 is Greg Maddux. I had a hard time deciding who to rank higher between him and Randy Johnson. Johnson had the more dominant peak, but Maddux was more consistent. Number 32 is Albert Pujols. Number 33 is Jimmy Fox. Number 34 is Mike Trout, the highest ranked active player. As he is still active, Trout still has a chance to move up on the list. Or down, if he doesn't age gracefully. Number 35 is Joe Morgan. Number 36 is Cap Anson. Seasons were much shorter in the 1870s and 1880s, so position players that played during this era are evaluated a bit unfairly by WAR, WAR 7, and wins above average. As a result, my ranking of position players from this time period will often be higher than their toes rating. Number 37 is Pedro Martinez. He didn't pitch as many innings as the other top pitchers, but he was one of the most dominant pitchers ever during his peak, with a 2.13 ERA plus from 1997 to 2003. Number 38 is Eddie Matthews. Number 39 is Roberto Clemente. Number 40 is Dan Bruthers. Among players with at least 1,000 games played, he ranks 8th all-time in OPS plus and 13th all-time in RWAR per 162. Number 41 is Bob Gibson. Number 42 is Clayton Kershaw. Number 43 is Oscar Charleston. Number 44 is Wade Boggs. Boggs was elite at getting on base, not only with a high batting average, but also strong plate discipline. He was also a great defender at third base. Even at 44, which I imagine is higher than where most people would rank him, Toes still thinks I'm underrating Boggs. Number 45 is Roger Connor. Number 46 is Joe DiMaggio. Short career, but undeniably great when he played. Number 47 is Al Kaline. Number 48 is Carl Yastrzemski. Yastrzemski's career is pretty bizarre. He played 23 seasons. In 3 of those seasons, he was worth at least 9.5 RWAR, including a season with 12.5 WAR. After that, he had 1 season of 6.6 RWAR, and then every other season he was worth 5.5 RWAR or fewer. Players like Yastrzemski are exactly why I included wins above average and WAR per 162 in Toes instead of just using Jaws. He's a rare example of a player with great longevity and a strong peak, but not a lot of dominance outside of his brief peak. His 130 OPS plus isn't anything special for a corner outfielder slash first baseman, but he had a great glove to go along with it. Very tricky player to rank. Number 49 is Cal Ripken Jr. Number 50 is Warren Spahn. Number 51 is Eddie Plank. Number 52 is Arky Vaughan, the most underrated player of all time. Check out this video to learn more about him. Number 53 is Adrian Beltre. Number 54 is George Brett. Number 55 is Chipper Jones. Yes, that's 3 third basemen in a row, and yes, I did struggle to decide what order to put them in. At number 56, we have Turkey Stearns. At number 57, it's Bert Blyleman. Number 58 is Phil Niekro. Number 59, Charlie Gehringer. At number 60, we have Mariano Rivera. Relief pitchers are tough because they simply don't play as much as players of every other position. You could argue that Rivera should be number 20 or number 200. Rivera's career ERA plus of 205 is just undeniably incredible though. On a rate basis, he is the greatest pitcher of all time by far. If you need a single scoreless inning, and you can pick any pitcher to ever play to pitch that inning, Mo is the correct choice. Number 61 is Bill Foster, the greatest Negro League pitcher. Number 62 is John Clarkson. At number 63 is Aaron Judge. For active players, I did not include stats from the current season. If I factored in his 2026 numbers, his toes would likely be higher, and it's possible that my ranking of him would be too. Judge will undoubtedly climb much higher on this list as his career continues. Number 64 is Steve Carlton, and at number 65 I have Ken Griffey Jr. Griffey was on pace to be a top 40 player through his age 30 season, but he was worth only 7.6 RWAR in his final 10 seasons, managing just a 114 OPS plus during those years, while also being a poor defender. Number 66 is Justin Verlander. Number 67 is George Davis. Number 68 is Tim Keefe. Number 69 is Willie Wells, the greatest Negro League infielder. Number 70 is Curt Schilling, and number 71 is Mike Mussina. Similar to Randy Johnson and Greg Maddux, I had a hard time deciding which of these players to put higher. Number 72 is Jeff Bagwell. Number 73 is Rod Carew. Number 74, we have Shoeless Joe Jackson. Number 75, we have Shohei Ohtani. Like Judge, Ohtani will likely rank much higher on this list by the end of his career. At 76, there's Gaylord Perry. Number 77 is Jackie Robinson. Number 78 is Johnny Bench, the greatest non-Negro League catcher. Number 79 is Johnny Mize, who somehow never reached 50% of the vote on the BBWAA Hall of Fame ballot, despite being an absolutely elite hitter. Mize could have been in the top 50 if he didn't lose 3 years of his prime to military service. Number 80 is Satchel Paige, whose reputation seems to exceed his actual performance. Paige is a player that I expected to fall in the top 25 based on the way I've heard people talk about him. However, his stats from his games in the Negro National League, the Negro National League 2, and the Negro American League are not as eye-popping as I was expecting. His 150 career ERA plus is obviously incredible, especially since he pitched into his mid-40s, plus 3 innings as a 58-year-old, but he only led his league in pitching WAR 3 times, and he only led the league in ERA plus twice during his career. Despite the legends about Paige, I think I have to rank him behind Bill Foster based on the numbers. Number 81 is Ed Delahanty. Number 82 is Max Scherzer. Number 83 is Robin Roberts. Number 84 is Fergie Jenkins. And at number 85, we have Mookie Betts, who I'm apparently underrating pretty severely according to Toes. In my defense, there is a massive difference in Betts' career RWAR and FWAR totals. If I used FWAR for Toes, it would align more closely with my ranking. The difference arises from the ways that each version of WAR quantified defense. RWAR uses defensive runs saved, which credits Betts with 182 fielding runs above average for his career as of May 10th, 2026. This is actually the third most since the data used to determine DRS first became available in 2003, behind only Adrian Beltre and Andrelton Simmons. FWAR uses StatCast fielding run value for seasons from 2016 to present, and Ultimate Zone Rating for seasons from 2002 to 2015. These metrics credit Betts with only 61.9 fielding runs above average. Number 86 is the Big Hurt, Frank Thomas. Number 87 is Ed Walsh, the all-time leader in career ERA and career FIP. Even though he pitched his entire career in the dead ball era, these numbers are still very impressive, as evidenced by his career 146 ERA+. The only thing holding Walsh back on this list is volume. He pitched only 7 full seasons, plus a handful of partial seasons. Number 88 is Larry Walker. We're starting to get into the territory where things become a lot less clear, and the gaps between players become much smaller. Number 89 is Harry Heilman. Number 90 is Zach Greinke. Number 91 is Tom Glavine. Number 92 is Billy Hamilton, who was essentially the original Rickey Henderson, an elite base runner that was also elite at getting on base. Unfortunately, Hamilton's career was much shorter than Henderson's was. Number 93 is Brooks Robinson, who was not only arguably the greatest defender of all time, but also an above-average hitter during his long career. Number 94 is Jim McCormick. A lot of 19th century pitchers will be ranked lower than their toes rating because they pitched an absurd number of innings per season. They generally played much fewer seasons, but because their innings were concentrated into fewer seasons, this caused their WAR total per season to be higher, and therefore their WAR 7 to be higher. Number 95 is Luke Appling. Number 96 is Gary Carter. Number 97 is Frank Home Run Baker. At 98, we have Robin Yount. Number 99 is Paul Wainer. And rounding out the top 100 is Roy Halladay. At 101, I have Sam Crawford. Number 102 is Manny Ramirez. Offensively, Ramirez is probably a top 25 or top 30 player of all time, but his poor defense and low positional value make him a less complete player than those ranked above him. And of course, there are also pitchers on the list ranked above him as well. Number 103 is Jim Thome. Number 104 is Scott Rowland, who marks the start of a cluster of well-rounded infielders. For the next 30 spots or so, we're going to see a ton of infielders that were very good in most or all facets of the game, but did not rack up large totals in traditional counting stats like hits or home runs. Baseball fans that only look at counting stats will likely think that I'm overrating these players, but Toes actually thinks that I'm underrating most of them. Number 105 is Ron Santo. Number 106 is Reggie Jackson. Number 107 is Amos Russi. At 108 is Carl Hubble. Number 109 is Mark McGwire. McGuire's 163 OPS plus ranks 14th all-time among players with at least 5,000 plate appearances. At 110 is Ozzie Smith. The offense wasn't great, but the defense was incredible. Many of the game's great defenders aren't able to maintain their defensive prowess as they age, but Brooks Robinson and Ozzie Smith are two notable exceptions. Smith performing excellently defensively and on the base paths for nearly 20 years is why he ranks so highly on the list, even though his bat wasn't very good. He was a consistently valuable shortstop over a long period of time. Number 111 is Duke Snider. Number 112 is Hank Greenberg. Elite hitter, but not a lot of volume. At 113 is Bobby Grich. At 114 is Barry Larkin. Number 115 is Edgar Martinez. Number 116 is Hal Newhouser. At 117 we have Lou Whitaker, and at 118 we have Paul Molitor. Number 119 is Nolan Ryan. I don't want to spend a lot of time talking about Ryan. There are people out there that think he's the greatest pitcher of all time, and nothing I say here is going to change their minds. All I'll say to those people is that there's much more to pitching than strikeouts. The most important aspect of pitching is run prevention, which Ryan was good at, but not good enough to make him a top 100 player of all time. For most pitchers, a 112 ERA plus wouldn't be good enough to crack the top 250. But for Ryan, he maintained that ERA plus over a whopping 5,386 innings pitched. Ryan's biggest strengths are volume and consistency. He played for a long time, and unlike many of the other compilers that we'll see lower down on this list, he was still a productive player in his later years. Number 120 is Lou Boudreau. Number 121 is Robinson Cano. Number 122 is Bill Dallin. 123 is Frankie Frisch. He may have ruined the Hall of Fame, but he was a great all-around player. At 124 is Kevin Brown. Number 125 is Ross Barnes. Barnes was the best player during Major League Baseball's first 6 seasons. He hit .398 with a 194 OPS plus during those 6 seasons, while also being a great defensive middle infielder. Unfortunately, his performance dropped in his 7th season due to a combination of illness and a rule change that eliminated his signature technique. Check out this video for more information. Number 126 is Alan Trammell. Number 127 is Ryne Sandberg. At 128, we have Al Simmons. At 129, I have Old Hoss Radbourn. Number 130 is Carlos Beltran. Number 131 is Pete Rose. Pete Rose is the first of 4 big-name compilers that are ranked within 11 spots of each other. A lot of what I'm going to say about Rose also applies to the other 3 players as well. Pete Rose had a good peak. In his 12 seasons from age 24 to age 35, he had a 132 OPS plus and was worth 67.8 RWAR. Even though he never led the league in RWAR or OPS plus, he was a very good player overall for 12 years. He was also a decent player for 2 years before this peak and for 3 years after this peak. The problem is that Rose played 7 seasons at the end of his career in which he was not only past his prime, but actually detrimental to his teams. From 1980 to 1986, Pete Rose played 894 games and was worth -1.1 RWAR. He was a below-average hitter with a 92 OPS+. He played first base almost exclusively, and he was a poor defender there, totaling negative 41 total zone runs. During these final 7 seasons, Rose accumulated 884 hits, allowing him to break Ty Cobb's all-time hits record. However, I would actually rank Rose higher if he had retired with 3,372 hits after the 1979 season. 7 years of sub-replacement level play is not indicative of greatness. Rose's strengths are his volume and peak, but he's held back by poor consistency, low rate stats, and a lack of dominance. Number 132 is Mike Piazza. Number 133 is Tony Gwynn. At 134 is Chase Utley, the last member of the cluster of well-rounded infielders. Number 135 is Al Spalding. Spalding was the best pitcher in the National Association, and he was a pretty good hitter too. His playing career ended early as he became a team owner and started a sports equipment business that you may have heard of. He stopped pitching after his age 25 season, and he stopped playing altogether at age 27. Despite the brevity of his career, he still pitched nearly 3,000 innings and racked up over 60 RWAR. His dominant peak carries him up to 135, while his lack of volume prevents him from ranking higher. Number 136 is Jim Palmer. Palmer pitched in front of one of the greatest defensive teams of all time. It's easier to have a low ERA when you have Brooks Robinson, Mark Belanger, Paul Blair, and Bobby Grich taking away base hits in the field behind you. Fun fact, Jim Palmer's career spanned from 1965 to 1984. He spent his entire career with the Orioles. During this time span, the greatest defensive players, according to Total Zone, were Mark Belanger, Brooks Robinson, Buddy Bell, and Paul Blair. Belanger, Robinson, and Blair were all Orioles. They spent 17, 12, and 11 seasons respectively as teammates with Jim Palmer. As a team, the Orioles racked up a ridiculous 1,052 total zone runs from 1965 to 1984. The next best team during this time frame accumulated only 362 total zone runs. As a result of this, the team defense adjustment makes Palmer's RWAR, and therefore his toes, lower than you might expect. I've ranked him higher than toes, but I might be overrating him. Palmer's FWAR is even lower than his RWAR, and FWAR doesn't have the same team defense adjustment, as it uses FIP instead of runs allowed. Number 137 is Ivan Rodriguez. Number 138 is Ernie Banks. Banks was an elite shortstop for 7 seasons, from 1955 to 1961. He was a good defender and a great hitter. He was worth 52.1 RWAR during those 7 seasons, with a 145 OPS+. However, he spent the next 10 seasons as a just okay first baseman. He was worth only 12.7 RWAR in his final 10 seasons, with an OPS plus of just 106. Banks' peak was incredible, but he spent more than half of his career as an average player. Number 139 is Hoyt Wilhelm. Wilhelm's career is fascinating, and could be a video on its own. He was a relief pitcher, but he pitched more total innings than some of the starting pitchers on this list. Wilhelm started his major league career at age 29. In his rookie season, he pitched 159 1/3 innings out of the bullpen, with a 152 ERA+. He won the ERA title as a relief pitcher, as he pitched enough innings in relief to qualify for it, and he finished 4th in MVP voting. He pitched until he was 49 years old, with his final appearance coming 15 days before his 50th birthday. In 1959, when Wilhelm was 36 years old, the Orioles decided to try him out as a starting pitcher. He proceeded to win his second ERA title, with a 2.19 ERA and 173 ERA plus in 226 innings pitched. He was worth 7.6 pitching RWAR. He then went back to the bullpen the next season. He finished his career with a 147 ERA plus over 2,254 1/3 innings pitched. Number 140 is Derek Jeter. Jeter is one of the big name compilers that I mentioned earlier, but he doesn't fit the bill as well as Rose, Banks, and the guy that's coming up next. Jeter's falloff at the end of his career was less drastic and less prolonged than these other 3 players. For Jeter, it's his poor defense that keeps him out of the top 100, and below shortstops like Barry Larkin, Lou Boudreau, Bill Dallin, and Alan Trammell. He was a consistently good hitter for most of his career, but the low defensive value prevented him from ever being a truly dominant player. Number 141 is Miguel Cabrera. Nearly everything I said about Pete Rose can also be said about Miguel Cabrera. He had an awesome 13-year peak from 2004 to 2016, but then 7 pretty terrible seasons from 2017 to 2023. He and Rose were very different kinds of players, but their career trajectories were quite similar, and as a result, their rankings on this list are also quite similar. Number 142 is Tommy Bond. Number 143 is Bobby Wallace. Number 144 is Dazzy Vance. Vance didn't become a full-time Major League player until he was 31 years old. From age 31 to 39, he was worth 57.5 pitching WAR. The only pitchers with more Baseball Reference pitching WAR during that age range are Lefty Grove, Cy Young, and Randy Johnson. Vance led the league in strikeouts in 7 straight seasons from age 31 to age 37. He led the league in pitching WAR 4 times from age 33 to age 39, and he led the league in ERA plus 3 times during the same time span. Number 145 is Joey Votto. Number 146 is Carlton Fisk. Number 147 is Stan Kovaleski. At 148, we have Juan Marichal. At 149, it's Don Drysdale. And at number 150 is Rafael Palmeiro. Palmeiro was consistently a very good player throughout his career, but he was never in the top echelon of players. The only black ink on his Baseball Reference page is 1 time leading the league in hits, 1 time leading the league in doubles, and 1 time leading the league in runs scored. He never had a 7 R-WAR season, and he had only 2 6 R-WAR seasons. He never had a full season with an OPS plus below 100, but he only had 1 season with an OPS plus above 150. Palmeiro was very consistent, but never dominant. Number 151 is John Smoltz. Number 152 is Bob Feller. Feller had 4 phenomenal seasons, but he was a good but not great pitcher for the majority of his career. Unfortunately, right in the middle of his 4 phenomenal seasons, he missed 3 seasons to military service. I did give him a small bump because of this, but I have to rank the players based on what did happen, not what could have happened. I can't help but wonder, though, how much higher he could have ranked had he been able to play those seasons. At 153 is Willie McCovey. At 154 is Yogi Berra. Number 155 is Rick Russell. Russell had only 1 season that I would classify as dominant, when he was worth 9.6 R-WAR with a 158 ERA plus in 1977, but he was a consistently good pitcher with a fairly long career. Number 156 is Tim Raines. 157, we have Kenny Lofton. Number 158 is Fred Clark. Number 159 is Clark Griffith. Coming in at 160 is Roberto Alomar. Number 161 is Andrew Jones. Number 162 is Rube Waddell. At 163, we have Mordecai Three Finger Brown. At 164, we have Joe Cronin. Number 165 is Dick Allen. Not a lot of volume for Allen, and he wasn't a very good fielder, but he sure could hit. His 156 OPS plus ranks 16th among players with at least 6,000 plate appearances. Number 166 is Reggie Smith. Number 167 is Ted Lyons. At 168, we have Bob Carruthers. Just like Vaughn and Barnes, Carruthers also has his own video on this channel. At 169, I ranked Manny Machado, who begins a cluster of active players. I had a hard time with the active players from this point on in the list because they're all older and likely approaching the end of their primes. It seems likely that right now we know what their peak looks like, but we don't know how gracefully they'll age. It is entirely possible that the TOES scores for these players actually decreases over the next few years, as poor performance can cause their wins above average and WAR per 162 to decrease. Because of this, I actually ranked most of them a little bit lower than their TOES rating. Number 170 is Joe McGinnity. Number 171 is Vic Willis. At 172 is Goose Goslin. 173 is Todd Helton. Coming in at number 174, we have Freddie Freeman. At 175, we have Paul Goldschmidt. Number 176 is Jose Ramirez. Number 177 is David Cone. Number 178 is Chris Sale. Sale's career revival in Atlanta has been incredible, and if he has a few more seasons like 2024 and 2025, he could definitely move up the rankings quite a bit by the time he retires. Number 179 is Mule Suttles. Number 180 is Tony Mullane. TOES ranks him higher, but I'm not overly impressed by his peak. He had a 13.3 R-WAR season in 1884, but obviously it's a bit easier for players to rack up WAR in seasons in which they pitch 567 innings. Number 181 is Bill Dickey. Number 182 is Eddie Murray. Murray's career was similar to Miguel Cabrera's, but with a lower peak. He never led his league in R-WAR, and he only led an OPS plus 1 time. For the final 891 games of his career, Murray was barely above replacement level. He was worth 5.1 wins above replacement and negative 6.9 wins above average over his final 7 seasons. He played mostly as a DH, and he was only slightly above league average with the bat, posting a 103 OPS plus. Murray was a great player, as are all of the players that made this list, but he tends to be overrated by people that don't look beyond his hit and home run totals. Number 183 is Pee Wee Reese. Number 184 is Pud Galvin. I struggled a lot with ranking Galvin. His career 107 ERA plus isn't overly impressive, but he pitched over 6,000 innings. He had some subpar seasons, but he was incredible in 1884, when he was worth a ridiculous 20.5 RWAR as a pitcher. He was a terrible hitter during a time when it actually mattered quite a bit how well pitchers could hit, since pitchers played all 9 innings in the 1880s and they started every 2 or 3 games. He was worth negative 9.8 RWAR as a batter, making him the second least valuable batter in MLB history. I still don't really know if this is the right spot for him, but 184 is where I ended up placing him. Number 185 is Billy Williams. Number 186 is Wes Ferrell. Number 187 is Greg Nettles. At 188 is Dennis Eckersley, who played 12 seasons as a good starting pitcher, then 12 more seasons as a good relief pitcher. Number 189 is Buck Leonard. Number 190 is Nolan Arenado. At 191 is Joe Gordon. At 192 is Whitey Ford, who, like Jim Palmer, also benefited from pitching for fantastic defensive teams. Number 193 is Jacob deGrom. Number 194 is Ichiro Suzuki. If Ichiro came to North America earlier in his career, I imagine he would be higher on this list. Considering he was worth 7.7 RWAR in his first MLB season, it's very likely that part of his peak occurred when he was playing in Japan. In North America, he had 10 good seasons and 9 not-so-good seasons. His case is very similar to Pete Rose's and Miguel Cabrera's, except that Suzuki's peak was shorter and a bit lower than Rose's and Cabrera's peaks. Number 195 is Sandy Koufax. Koufax pitched 6 good seasons, 4 of which were dominant. From 1963 to 1966, he was the best pitcher in baseball, and this 4-year stretch has an argument as one of the greatest 4-year stretches by a pitcher ever. Unfortunately, injury forced Koufax to retire after putting up 10.3 pitching RWAR and a 190 ERA plus in his age 30 season. His peak was elite, but short. He was also an average pitcher from 1955 to 1960, with a 100 ERA plus during this span. He ranks high in peak and dominance, but lacks volume and consistency. The lack of volume was not entirely his fault, of course, and I did rank him a bit higher because of that. Number 196 is Francisco Lindor. Number 197 is Louis Tiant. Number 198 is Andre Dawson. Number 199 is Dwight Evans. And rounding out the top 200 is Charlie Buffington. At number 201, we have Jack Glasscock. At number 202 is Sammy Sosa. Are you surprised that Sosa's career OPS plus is only 128? That's pretty low for a player with over 600 career home runs. The reason for this is that outside of his PED-fueled peak seasons from 1998 to 2002, Sammy Sosa wasn't very good at getting on base. His on-base percentage from 1989 to 1997 was a paltry .308. Number 203 is Rich Goose Gossage. At 204 is Jim Edmonds. Number 205 is Brett Saberhagen. Number 206 is Johan Santana. Number 207 is Vladimir Guerrero. At 208 we have Harmon Killebrew. At 209 it's Jim Bunning. At 210 is Jesse Burkett. Number 211 Ken Boyer. Number 212 we have Richie Ashburn. At number 213 we have Joe Mauer. At number 214 Larry Doby. 215 I put Willie Randolph. At 216 is Mickey Welch. And at number 217 is Buddy Bell. Bell was a great defender and an above-average hitter. He didn't have a super high peak, but he was consistently good, and he had a pretty long career as well. At 218 is Craig Biggio. At 219 we have Red Ruffing. Number 220 is Gabby Hartnett. Number 221 is Billy Wagner, who is second all-time in ERA plus among pitchers with at least 500 innings pitched, behind only Mariano Rivera. Number 222 is Buck Ewing. At 223 we have Bill Terry. Number 224 is Elmer Flick. Number 225 is CC Sabathia. At 226 we have Joe Torre. And at 227 I put Dave Winfield. Winfield had a lot of volume, but he had only one season with an RWAR above 5.5. He was a very good hitter, but despite his 7 Gold Glove awards, he was a minus defender, with negative 91 total zone runs for his career. Number 228 is George Sisler. From his debut in 1915 until his MVP winning season in 1922, George Sisler was one of the best players in baseball. He hit 400 twice, he had an OPS plus of 155 during this span, and he was worth 47.9 RWAR in only 1,047 games played. Unfortunately, Sisler missed the 1923 season due to illness and vision problems. When he returned in 1924, he was no longer the caliber of hitter that he once was, averaging a 97 OPS plus over his final 7 seasons. Number 229 is Sherry McGee. Number 230 is Urban Shocker. Number 231 is Gary Sheffield. Sheffield was a great hitter, but he was a historically bad fielder. Sheffield has the second fewest fielding runs ever, behind only Derek Jeter. Fielding runs are the defensive component of Baseball Reference WAR. They're based on total zone prior to 2003, and on defensive runs saved from 2003 to present. Like Jeter, Sheffield's ranking would be much higher if he was even an average defender. Number 232 is Mickey Cochran. Number 233 is Dizzy Dean. Number 234 is Addy Joss. The volume is low for Joss due to his untimely passing, but he had a 143 ERA plus across his 9 seasons, as well as a record 0.968 whip. Number 235 is Trevor Hoffman. Number 236 is Eddie Seacott. At 237, I put Sal Bando. Number 238, we have Dave Stieb. Coming in at 239 is Bobby Abreu. And at number 240, we have Keith Hernandez. At 241, I put John McGraw. McGraw played only 1,100 games, but he was one of the greatest players in baseball history at avoiding outs. His career on-base percentage was .466, which ranks 3rd all-time, behind only Ted Williams and Babe Ruth. The volume is low, but I can't leave a guy that got on base at a higher rate than Barry Bonds off of the list. Number 242 is Red Faber. Faber had a weird career. In 1921 and 1922, he was the best pitcher in the American League, leading the league in ERA plus both seasons and putting up 11.4 pitching WAR and 9.6 pitching WAR respectively. Outside of these 2 seasons though, he didn't have any other seasons with more than 6 pitching WAR, and he had only 1 season in which he was worth more than 4.5 pitching WAR. Faber had a long career, and for most of it, he was a consistently good but not great pitcher. But right in the middle of his career, he had 2 outlier seasons in which he was incredible. The strangeness of his career makes him hard to rank. Number 243 is Willie Stargell. Number 244 is John Ward, who I've made 2 videos about. Number 245 is Bryce Harper. At 246 is Zach Wheat. Number 247 is Lance Berkman. Number 248 is Cole Hamels. Hamels wasn't dominant, but he was consistently a very good pitcher. At 249, we have Ralph Kiner. And rounding out the list, in the final spot, number 250, is Bobby Bonds. Ranking the top 250 baseball players of all time is an impossibly difficult task, but I think I did a pretty decent job. Let me know in the comments who you would rank higher, who you would rank lower, and if there's any players that you think I left off the list that deserve to be on. Thank you to all of my viewers, but an extra special thank you to my Patreon and YouTube members. If you'd like to support me, you can add your name to the list by clicking the link in the description or the join button down below.